morning, fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests. Welcome back, Kate. I'm going to talk about Brexit. How many people have a sense, a little sense of what Brexit is? Okay, good. The rest of the audience, be prepared for a, thank you. All set? Thank you. Okay, for an explanation. This, on the left, is the Euro flag, European Union flag. Its the membership consists of 28 countries in England, in Europe primarily. And the reason it was formed was to act as a bloc, so that all these members can protect themselves, not just defensive-wise, but also economically. And that was the thrust of it being started. The Union Jack on the right represents England. And therein lies the gist of my speech. Because Britain doesn't want to be a member of the EU. And I'm going to explain some of the reasons that are at task here. As again, there's the map of the countries that comprise the European Union. And it changes. A lot of countries have an application in the hopper to join at some point. And then, the question of the day is, why would Britain want to leave? They've been a member for a long time. In terms of their economic contribution to the EU, they're third, but Germany and France are the largest contributors to the EU. And then there's Britain. But why would a third-ranking member want out? The reasons are varied. For one thing, England wants sovereignty. They want to make their own decisions. They don't want to be tied, limited, constrained by the rules that govern the EU. They want more freedom. For example, they want to be able to trade with China. They want to be able to trade with the United States. And if they stayed in the Union, they just feel that their prosperity, progress will be diminished by staying in the Union. And in June of 2016, they decided to have a referendum in the country. And by the smallest of margins, I think it was 51 to 48%, Englanders voted to exit the EU. And that's when the troubles really began. Because you've got on one side the Tories, the Conservatives, who are in charge, and on the other side you have the Labour Union and other small parties who have a different mindset about what they want it to be. Another issue is immigration. Immigration means that immigrants that work that live in England can go across borders and come back. They also are given a subsidy welfare, if you will, when they're not working. And that is also a bone of contention that England has, because they don't want to foot the bill. They do not want, and by exiting the EU, they're free of that burden and constraints. Another reason is because that they do not want to be shackled by the courts, the European Court, where any dispute is brought before the court and they all decide. They want freedom. They want to get out of this whole organization. a timeline that talks about some of the issues. June of 2016 is when they had the referendum, by the smallest of margins. And then they were given a date whereby they had to get to convince the members of parliament to agree to the terms that Theresa May, who's there on the right, came up with. They've given her a hard time. She's really had a hard time, and to the point where she's decided that she's been going to leave. They will keep her in there as long as once these negotiations are through, but they do not want her to be the prime minister after that. Because in the interim, when all these votes that were presented by her party were rejected resoundingly by the parliament. And they're still in flux. In fact, in March 12th, there's going to be another vote, and there's just so much confusion. You have people that want to say, okay, let's do a do-over. Let's have another referendum, because this isn't working out as we anticipated. There are other people who say, no, we're going to plow ahead. We're going to still move forward in terms of exiting the EU. And at this point, no one knows what's going to happen. It is that dire. And eventually, they're going to have to decide one way or the other. There's going to be a no deal or a deal. And with the no deal, it's going to be a hard Brexit. And that's going to create so much havoc on the economy and all kinds of other ways of how Britain does business. One of the stumbling blocks is the border between Northern Ireland, who is part of England, and the Republic of Ireland, who is a member of the EU. During the 70s, there was the Troubles. That's when the Irish, Northern Irish, and the Irish people had a hard time, and they fought, and there was a border. Both sides, the EU and England, do not want a hard border. So what that would mean would be customs would have to be checked, the quality of goods have to be looked at, and that's everybody agrees that there has to be a backstop, which is what this agreement would be. They all agree, no matter what happens, deal or no deal, they do want to protect that border, and it's called the backstop. These are some of the outcomes that could happen if they decide to stay, if they decide to leave, and they're complicated. Say, for example, they decide to stay. There's a 2-year transition period where all these things will be ironed out, and that's a good thing. But England will have no say, will still be under the EU, but they will have no say on voting on any of the matters. They're just there, paying their duty to the EU, but really no voice. And some of the people who want to leave think that's not even a good deal. They don't know what they want. They're so perplexed as to what they're going to do. And as you see by some of these entries, they are really stuck. They've even, in fact, the situation became so worse and dire that some people in the conservative side withdrew from the party and joined people in the Labour Party because they were so upset about that. This issue is going to go on and on and on for years. And unless it's resolved, Europe economically is going to suffer a great defeat. Mr. Toastmaster.